pound for pound great, the sensational,
the one, the only, the undisputed, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world.
TrueCoreTv presents the champions of the world.
Hosted by the DINUNZIO Brothers, Vago, and my boy AGD.
The show that introduces you to some good people doing good things. We are going to ask our guests some questions to see what their thoughts and feelings on a wide range of topics which we feel should be talked more about. Focusing on mental, physical, spiritual health, truth, freedom, love, and the warrior spirit. Before we start, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Zeal's Natural and Organic Products. I'd like to introduce our guest, one of our top contenders to be the next champion of the world. He's a lifelong entrepreneur, starting with his first rental property at just 12 years old. He had his first sole proprietorship at 16 years old and has continued to start businesses and assist startups across Canada. He is an anarchist at heart, a volunteerist by day, and a spiritual teacher by night. He has 3 children who are unschooled at home and are young entrepreneurs in training. He's also a dosser, Reiki practitioner, meditation instructor, remote viewer, and truth seeker. Currently, he's the president of Mind Body Networks, Inc., based in Fort Nelson, British Columbia. He's a great guy I've had the pleasure to meet last year. I'm stoked to introduce Rob Cheyne.
Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Right on. So let's get right down to it, man. Let's get down to business. Big picture of world economy. Are we still in a recession, or is that long gone history?
What we've seen here right now is we've seen an extended bull market, I would call it. Right now, since 2008, for the last 10 years, we have extended a cycle that was meant to naturally correct. And I think the Trump factor has been an interesting one. It's made every economist wrong in their predictions. And I think if we see a regime change with our American counterparts, it's going to take away that extension that has been there. And like an elastic band, it's been overstretched. And so we only have farther to fall. And I believe that's a potential that we're up against here in coming months.
Wow. So Rob, I know you're into cryptocurrencies. Is this freedom from the banks or a Trojan horse?
It's a double-edged sword for sure, my friend. I believe cryptos have done amazing things so far. What we've seen in Venezuela, we've seen in other countries, it's created stability, it's created free entrepreneurship and free enterprise. And more importantly, it's created private money again, real value transference between people that's private. However, I believe that the very instrument that was part of our freedom could also be used to enslave us. We see a future coming where banks and other people, institutions are adopting blockchain technology. And for as much as it can be anonymous, it can also be fully transparent. And we risk the fact knowing that every single transaction, when a dollar comes to you, every iteration of that dollar or fraction of that dollar could be tracked through a blockchain and inevitably taxed, and taxed accurately. I think the big question we have for governments is if they want us to be fully transparent, which I think they do by getting rid of cash, making cashless societies, getting us onto cryptocurrencies. I think we have to ask the question is, why can't governments be transparent too? Because they're going to have all kinds of reasons why they can't be transparent, but they expect us to be. So Watch for that.
Good point.
Nice, yes. Precious metals, currencies, mining, exchanges, cannabis, tech industry, war industry. Where would you be putting your chips, Rob?
Well, I love the gold, love silver. Still think silver's a bargain price right now at just under $16. It's the metals are definitely something that's going to change over time. We're seeing also some other lithium and other products right now for mining are going to be potentially huge in long term. So the mining sector itself right now is going to be probably one of our last industries in Canada where we're still producing goods. Our lumber's under attack. our oil and gas is under attack. Mining might be the only operation we're going to have for a while to export goods other than agriculture. So right now, and we're not sure what's going to happen with the marijuana industry. Right now, I really fear a little bit that the marijuana industry and some of the medical cannabis, although I'm optimistic we're going to see some amazing stuff come out of the research, don't get me wrong. I feel right now we're possibly a little overhyped, a little too much speculation. I'm seeing a lot of startup companies worth, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they don't have any inventory. They have a farm, and I'm a little worried that might be a bit of a bubble forming, if not already a bubble. And there could be some room for downslide there. But I also think there's going to be some developments that come out of that are going to be huge opportunities for people that are on board early. So it's really tough. There's be selective, do your homework, do your research, pick the right company to get behind.
Right. What would you grade governments for you? Obviously, the Canadian government, A, B, C, D, E, or F?
I don't believe the government has been functional at all. Having a mother that worked for Revenue Canada, I've been able to see some of the taxation abuse that's happened on families and farms. And we've seen constantly, no matter which government comes into power, we've seen a decline in our freedoms, in our revenue that comes to us. And we're continuously seeing a loss of services. And we're not getting any better here. So if we're not getting better, I think we need to change the program. And that's a long-term view. Ultimately, I'd love to have a free society where there is no government, but at the same time, there's helpless people that do need the government. So we end up in a real pickle until we're able to support those people on a voluntarious level where each one of us is looking after an elder, each one of us is looking after someone with disabilities. That's how you replace government. We take away the need for it. But until all of us are willing to step up and say, hey, let's help these people that need help, their only resource is to turn around and say, where's the government to help me? So by us almost ignoring some of those people in need, we're propagating government.
Yeah.
Right.
Mainstream media, does anyone still believe this stuff they're saying, or what?
Well, I think until we have a media that's not paid, or at least isn't monetized by the parties it's representing, we're never going to get an unbiased opinion from a media company. Every media company has their own agenda, and we've seen from some great examples online where these media companies are all owned in a pyramid scheme by one master company or a couple master companies.
Yeah.
And they propagate information down the chain to all these smaller outlets, and we think it's new news or it's unique or it's coming from a local source, and it isn't. It's coming from a mastermind group at the top. Well, that's not news, that's control. And I think we have to call it what it is. News has to come from a different source. I think we're starting to see that. We're starting to see guys like yourselves, independent researchers, journalists popping up, right? Shout out to a lot of Canadian guys that are doing this right now. And I think people now have a choice. 100 years ago, you didn't have a choice where you got your news from. Today, you have a choice. And I think that scares them. They're losing that control that they had. And everyone can pick and choose between which source they value more and which one they want to listen to.
Yeah. Great.
Well said.
Well,
So, Rob, you have children, and you don't just homeschool them, but you unschool. Explain briefly what that means, and for those that aren't familiar with the term unschooling.
Sure. I originally thought that homeschooling, when I first conceptualized it, I like a lot of people, I think, thought that homeschooling was simply doing school at home. So we were going to have the children, we were going to sit them down 9 till 3 at a desk, hitting the curriculum, doing the books, cranking out the worksheets. And then I realized how far from the truth that was, and how that system really doesn't work for a lot of children. I have 3 very different children, and I guess as a point of a parenting protocol, I don't treat them the same. They are not the same. That doesn't mean I don't treat them equally, but they're not the same person.
They learn differently.
Each one has different gifts. Each one has different abilities, different interests. So with an unschooling environment, what we're able to do is have them learn at different paces, have them learn based on interests. If one's interested in dinosaurs, well, we can still cover all the subjects with dinosaurs. We can look at the geography of where the dinosaur was. We can do math about calculating how much it would eat in a day. We can still do a lot of quantitative and qualitative learning, but do it around an interest-based thing rather than saying, well, that's great that you're interested in dinosaurs, but today we're going to learn about something else. And it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying that schools are bad or wrong. There's a lot of great teachers in our school system. Our education system's full of wonderful people that care about children. But when you have 30 kids in a class, you can't customize the curriculum 30 times for interest-based learning. It just doesn't work.
Right.
So, and unfortunately, we're hearing a lot of parents today, the biggest complaint I think I have is they don't think they have a choice. You hear parents say, well, my kid needs to go to this school. My kid might have some learning disabilities. Maybe my kid is struggling with some other identity issues. And they think that the school just has to accept them and bend over backwards to make them fit. And I would argue quite the opposite. I think it's the parents' responsibility to pull the kid out of school and give them a different learning plan. It's the parents' job. But instead, we're putting the onus back on the school system and ultimately on the taxpayer dollar to say, no, you guys need to teach my kid. Well, I don't think school's the only option. And now that I've seen some of the successes we're seeing from unschooling, I would welcome anyone to look into it and seriously give it some consideration of how you can go about building independent, individual learning plans for each child and have them learn in an environment where they can grow and be ultimately the best they can be.
Right.
Nice.
I guess they don't get homework, your kids, because they're at home already.
Yeah. The big joke right now is the concept of weekends or summertime. A lot of people ask them, oh, what do you do? Or spring break just came up, right? People will say, oh, are you enjoying your spring break? Well, my kids don't know what that is because school just keeps going. and I think that is another key aspect of unschooling is that there's no set schedule. So we're learning throughout the day. Learning can happen at any time. It can happen while we're cooking dinner. It can happen while we're, maybe something in the evening or we're playing a game together, a board game. There's always opportunities for learning, and it isn't just something where you only learn when you sit at a desk and look at a book. Learning can happen throughout the day. So that's another kind of key philosophy, I think, of unschooling that we tend to get rid of throw the clock away. The clock means nothing. There's no time for learning. Learning is all the time.
Right.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Do you think there's time travel technology working today, Rob?
Gee, I don't know if there's so much the technology as in there's definitely, I would say, time travel perception ability. As part of my experience of working with remote viewer communities, we're finding that people can start to access these kind of libraries. We want to call them records. Some people might even call them Akashic records. These are simply things that are information that's out there. We don't really understand it. It's like an internet superhighway that wraps the world, is the way I like to think about it. We can kind of log in anytime and check in with it. And there's people that can look forward and backwards in those records. They don't need a machine to do it, and they don't need any special technology. But yet, people are accessing information from these libraries, and it's how we sometimes have the deja vu, or we have these, kind of precognitive dreams. These are real phenomenons that happen to ordinary people. These aren't special people. And I believe everyone can do it if they, like anything else, practice and apply themselves. The question is why does someone want to do it, and what is the purposes behind it? And I think there are some people out there trying to find malicious purposes for everything. And I'm always cautious about that. When people are trying to do time travel, my big question is why? What do they hope to achieve if they could actually do it?
Right.
That's all we have time for today. We'd like to thank our guests so much for coming on the show. Rob Cheyne, it was awesome having you on. It was amazing. So well said. We love your work, and please tell our listeners where they can find you online.
So my website, mindbodynetworks.com. I'm also available on LinkedIn and Facebook if people want to reach out, connect on projects. Absolutely.
Cool. Special thank you for everyone who tuned in today. You can check our guest workout. We'll leave the links posted below. And
Yeah, this episode is brought to you by Zeo's Natural Organics, www.zeos.ca, and TrueCoreTv, TrueCoreTv.com. Truth, freedom, love, and the warrior spirit. Peace.
Peace.